Hi, my name is Danny Knox and I'm an independent fundraising consultant. Let's talk about GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. For any organisation, including a charity that holds, stores, or processes any personal information, whether it be about staff, volunteers, beneficiaries, or clients, donors, or supporters, they are your subjects. You now need to be showing that you are compliant with GDPR. Now, let's just cover some basics to get you going because I don't want to talk for too long. But first of all, let me say 3 reasons why I think this new GDPR policy is a really good thing. First of all, it means that silence or not ticking a box on something can no longer opt you into a mailing list. So when you're on a website, you're filling out your information, and then at the bottom in small print is there, if you do not want to receive updates, click here. No longer can organisations do that because it has to be an action from the individual, the subject, to opt in. So it has to be, if you want to receive these newsletters or updates, tick here, which should mean that you're getting less emails coming into your inbox and post, and you think, I don't know how I signed up for that mailing list, because now you have to opt in to a mailing list. So that's a really good thing. Second of all, it means that, say you have a mailing list and you have lots of people on there, you will have some people that are dormant, which means they moved a long time ago, they changed their email address, but they didn't tell you, or they're receiving it, but they're not really interested in it, so it goes straight in the bin. Or they do read it, but they're not interested in supporting you any more than that. If you go through this GDPR policy, it will mean that those dormant contacts that you have will come off your mailing list, which may seem daunting at first as your mailing list shrinks, but it means those that you have on your mailing list are active supporters. So people that really care about what you're doing and want to hear back from you, which is a really good thing. So perhaps when you send out an appeal, your success rate will be much higher because you're not sending it off to people that aren't interested. And particularly if you're sending anything by post, then this is going to save you money in the long run because you're not wasting the paper and the postage sending it to people where it's just going to go straight in the bin. So that's really good. And thirdly, this is all about raising trust with the people that you hold and process information, personal information on, which is a really good thing. So the Information Commissioner's Office, which is the independent authority that ensures the rights for individuals, if you're not compliant, then potentially you're going to get fined by them. But they've said that shouldn't be your motivation. We're doing this because we don't want to be fined. Actually, the motivation should be you're doing this because you want to build trust with the people that are going to be on your lists. And the greater trust they have in you, the greater they might give to you, or they'll be more active in the work that you're doing. So building trust is a really good thing. And this policy, if you're showing you're compliant, will show your donors, your supporters, your beneficiaries, your clients that they can trust you. So this is a really good thing. But it does require a bit of work. This is not about taking your data protection policy that you may already have in place and just chucking it out. This is about informing this and including some extra bits to it. So don't panic too much. But there are some things that you're going to need to include in your GDPR policy. So quickly, you need to go through the individual's rights, and there are 8 concerned particularly with the GDPR policy. So the right to be forgotten, the right to have access, the right for rectification. So as a policy, you need to be addressing how are you ensuring each of those rights as an organisation. Also, you need to prove that you have a legal basis for having the information. If you don't legally need to have the information, you shouldn't have that information. So you need to be proving your legal basis. Now, there are 6 factors that can prove your legal basis. One of those is consent. So if you can prove consent, so the opting in, then you have part of your legal basis. But you need to consider that and how that affects your organisation. You also need a data protection officer or a data protection lead, a DPO, DPL. Some organisations have to have a data protection officer, some don't, but I'd suggest if you don't, you still need a data protection lead, someone that is going to be in charge of this. And that person will be in charge of making sure the policy is being delivered as promised, that all the processes that the policy says they will do, that are being done. They will make sure that any staff or volunteers that have access to the personal information should have access to it, and that they are adequately trained in how to deal with that. They will do research into security systems that you may need to ensure greater security of the data. Someone that will be in charge of all of this. If there are any questions, any complaints, any concerns, it comes to this person. Now, this person needs to be regularly reviewing the policy and making sure it is happening. I'd suggest as a wider organisation, your board, perhaps your leadership, this needs to be reviewed annually to just ensure that you are complying with this policy. So you need to consider all of those things. As part of the process as well, I would do an audit on your information. So what information do you currently collect, handle, process and store? What personal information do you have? How did you get the information? So where was the consent? How long is it kept? How is it kept secure? Who is it shared with? Who's your current data protection officer, and what does the policy say? All those kind of things. Consider your current system. And when you're writing your new policy, updating your policy, making sure that you're looking at your audit and as you're going along, working out where things are no longer compliant under your new policy, because then you can be writing another list of things you need to implement. So this is no longer enough. So we're now going to start implementing this as part of our policy. So your policy needs to include your legal basis, how you're addressing each of the rights, how you will collect, handle, store and process all the information. How do you get consent from individuals to have the information? How is it kept secure? Are things password protected? Are they encrypted? Have you got information online? What happens if you get a virus on the computer? Is paper information being stored in a filing cabinet that's kept away from the office? Information like that. You also need to consider, how do you deal with if a subject requests access to their information, and what is that process? And what do you do if there has been a breach? If a volunteer or staff has shared information they shouldn't, if you've been hacked and that information has been stolen, what's the process of how you deal with that, and by which stage do you inform people? You also need to consider your privacy notices, which are about how you communicate with your subjects this important information, so they know their rights and they know that you're doing everything you can wisely and appropriately. So is that privacy information on the bottom of a consent form? Is it the bottom of an email? A mailing list? Is it on your website? How are you effectively communicating with your subjects? And those privacy notices need to be really clear, free from jargon, so it's really easy to understand. That is just the basis. So if you want any more information, if you want a list of good training to go on, things to watch on YouTube, articles to read on the web, resources that can be found on the web, just contact me. I've got a long list of things I'd happily share with you. I've now added GDPR policy work to my services, so if you want to get in touch and ask for my help in writing a policy for your organisation, in conducting an audit for your organisation, reading through your policy and just making sure that it's compliant. Whatever that is, you can get in touch with any of the information below. But remember, GDPR is not meant to be scary. It's actually going to enhance and improve the work that you're doing.